In today's lesson, we're going to look at completing the square where a is greater than 1. So that means that we have a number in front of our x squared term. So the expression that we're starting with and we want to complete the square on is 3x squared minus 12x minus 5. Now in order to do my halve it, square it, subtract it, I don't want a number in front of my x squared term. So the first thing we're going to do is, just looking at the first two terms here, 3x squared minus 12x, I'm going to factorise by taking out a factor of 3. So this orange part, if I take out the factor of 3, I'm going to use big square brackets because I want to have some other brackets inside it in a minute. So I take out my 3, which gives me x squared minus 4x. Close the bracket because that's equivalent to the first two terms, the orange part, and then I need to pop my minus 5 back on the end. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at what's inside the brackets. So this x squared minus 4x, and I'm going to complete the square on my x squared minus 4x using halve it, square it, subtract it. So not doing anything with the 3, open my square bracket. Looking just at the x squared minus 4x, I'm going to set up my bracket for completing the square. I'm going to think halve it, so I'm going to halve minus 4, so I get minus 2. I'm going to square it, so I'm going to square the minus 2, which gives me 4, and I'm going to subtract it, so I'm going to take away 4. I'm going to close my square bracket. So what's in pink on the second line is equivalent to what's inside the bracket underlined in pink on the first line, and I mustn't forget to pop the minus 5 back on the end. Now all I need to do is to expand the orange square bracket and to simplify everything. So if I expand the bracket, I need to multiply everything in the bracket by 3, so I'm left with 3x minus 2 all squared, and then I've got minus 3 times the 4, which is 12, and then I've got my minus 5 on the end. Simplifying gives me 3x minus 2 all squared minus 12 minus 5 is minus 17. So when I'm completing the square with a greater than 1, I do end up with a number in front of my bracket, and I can say a equals 3, b equals minus 2, and c equals minus 17. Okay, let's have a look at another one of those. You can write down the first example if you want to. If not, then I suggest you write down this one. This one we're going to end up with some fractions. So example 2, we are going to complete the square on 2x squared minus 6x minus 7. So again, the first thing I want to do is factorise just the first two terms, to take the 2 outside the brackets. So that leaves me with x squared minus 3x inside the brackets. So when I do my completing the square, I don't have a number in front of my x squared. Don't forget that we need to put the minus 7 on the end. Again, now I'm just going to look at what's inside the square bracket, and I'm going to complete the square on that. So this is going to equal, let's put my 2 in my square bracket. Now I'm going back to my pink pen because I'm going to be writing down what's equivalent of in pink. So set up your x and your squared. Now we've got to halve it, so we've got to halve minus 3. Now that obviously is not going to be a whole number, and it's much easier later on if we leave that in top heavy fraction form and halve minus 3 to give us minus 3 over 2, rather than go into decimals and have minus 1.5, because what we need to do now we've halved it, is we need to square this 3 over 2, and it's much easier to square 3 over 2 than it is square decimals. So I'm going to square 3 over 2, so I just square the top, square the bottom, which gives me 9 over 4, and I'm going to subtract my 9 over 4. So there's my equivalent pink part inside the square brackets, and then I need to remember to pop the minus 7 back on the end. Now if you remember from the previous example, we're now going to expand the orange square bracket and simplify. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So I'm going to have my 2 x minus 3 over 2 all squared. And then I've got to multiply my minus 9 over 4 by 2, which is going to give me, remember we just multiplied the numerator, 18 over 4, and then I've got my minus 7 on the end. Now in order to do this subtraction at the end, in order to simplify, the first thing I want to do is simplify 18 over 4, which gives me 9 over 2, and then if I write 7 as a fraction over 2, which is 14 over 2, 7 is the same as 14 over 2, can you see I've now got common denominators, which makes it much easier to subtract those fractions. So still writing the first part the same, and then I've got minus 9 over 2 minus 14 over 2. With common denominators, I just need to do minus 9 minus 14, so I get minus 23 over 2. So some fractions involved, but I know how good you all are at fractions, so you won't have any problems with that at all. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is have a go at some questions. So again, you're going back to the exercise 10H in the folder on files, and I want you to do question 5, last column. Then I want you to have a go at doing some solving equations. So I want you to do question 9, part A and part B, and extension is part C, and then using equating coefficients, we're going to have a go at questions 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10.